Breaking news on naturalnews.com. At least 260 bodies recovered from Israeli music festival attacked by Hamas terrorists. The Zaka response team in Israel says it has retrieved 260 bodies from a music festival that was struck by Hamas militants in last weekend's surprise attack. Partygoers were dancing the night away when armed terrorists started opening fire, we are told. One attendee, a 23-year-old named Hirsch Goldberg Poland, reportedly texted his family the following message before going missing. Quote, "I love you, I'm sorry." Another festival goer named Riva told the media that many Israeli partiers were completely unaware that Hamas militants were coming their way until it was already too late for them to do anything about it. It wasn't until the first shots and screams that people began to realize something was wrong, I think, she said. Nobody noticed them until it was too late. They were right there with us. The music didn't stop right away. I looked at the crowd and some people were still dancing, Riva would go on to claim. There were so many of us, and we'd been up all night. Like, I have this memory of knowing I was hearing gunshots really close to me, but there was this split second where I almost tried to convince myself it was just part of the set. Read more at naturalnews.com. Truth matters.
Brighteon.com, and today we've got a really special guest for you, Derek Broze, who is, he's the head of The Conscious Resistance. That's his website, theconsciousresistance.com. He's an author, and he's also running for the mayor of Houston, Texas. And the state, it seems, is doing everything possible to keep him off the ballot. Derek Broze is a champion of human freedom, liberty, and of course, self-determination. That's why I love his message so much. And he joins us today while he's on the campaign trail right now. More than ever before, your message is critical for the future of humanity. Can you kind of summarize what it is that you stand for and advocate?
Sure. I mean, I think that I'm a lover of liberty. I'm a defender of liberty. I've been doing this now, journalism, independent journalism, and activism for about 14 years. And all of my work, my efforts, including running for mayor, which is something I never thought I'd do before, are all about trying to specifically, how can I improve my local community and how can I fight back and push back against encroachments on our liberties, promote decentralization, promote individual liberty, bodily autonomy, et cetera, on the local level. And very much under the belief that if each of us were to do that and focus on what we can do in our own communities, and we were to see this kind of pattern of behavior and these habits and be passed down intergenerationally, that we could create intergenerational change outside of the systems of enslavement. So I've done that in the form of journalism, producing documentaries, writing books, confronting politicians, going and putting a microphone in their face, writing articles. I currently write for The Last American Vagabond with Ryan Christian. I produce weekly articles there, and documentaries, whatever it takes. Running for office, like always though, about trying to promote solutions, trying to educate and expose some of the darkness in our world and some of the corruption that we're aware of, and the rising surveillance state. And obviously, so many people have woken up to that in the last couple of years since COVID 1984 began, and that's really the crux of my work. And when it comes to the conscious resistance, for me, I am a spiritual guy. I went to prison at a young age, and I discovered prayer and meditation while I was in prison. It's really what turned my whole life around when I was 20 years old. So I had that sort of awakening before I ever started questioning politics and conspiracies and things of this sort. So I kind of came into the liberty movement in 2010 after discovering Ron Paul, reading Ron Paul's book, watching some Alex Jones documentaries, discovering your work early on, and already had a kind of spiritual curiosity and kind of awareness there, just those things, was on that journey. And so when I started to get into activism and eventually journalism, and I launched The Conscious Resistance in 2013, for me, it was very much about trying to bring those two things together. Like, I wanted a place where I could do serious investigative reports and documentaries, as well as talks on the benefits of prayer or meditation or exploring, mental health, or just whatever things were interesting to me. But really, the conscious resistance, I like to tell people that it's the understanding, the reflection that the struggle for a more free and ethical and just world that I think many of us are after.
My next guest is a freedom fighter unlike anybody you've probably ever seen before. 15-year-old Spitfire, articulate, good-looking, and frankly knows the Constitution and understands his God-given rights. Lucky Basiri, spoken at 47 events over the last couple of years, and he was very instrumental in the Recall Gavin Newsom movement. If you remember that, I was also involved in putting out a documentary. He defeated his left-wing school board on COVID mandates. He's actively exposing all of the woke propaganda in schools. And unfortunately, he missed me when I was in Las Vegas at a Reawaken event. Apparently, he was backstage trying to meet people and press the flesh. Well, he is extremely diligent in hunting you down because he tracked me down, and I'm honored to have him join me now. Lucky Basiri, great to see you. All right, Lucky, I am really honored to meet you. You are quite tenacious. You tracked me down, and like a good dog with a chew toy, you didn't let go until you got me committed to meeting you. And I'm really glad you did, because it's not often you get to meet youth that is wise beyond their years. It's great to finally have you on the show.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's get right to brass tacks. You're not an ordinary 15-year-old.
No, I'm not. I've done my research and I know my stuff, I'd like to say.
Yes, you have. So let me ask you, because you have been up against some pretty big names. You've gone against your school board. You've been very instrumental in the Gavin Newsom recall movement, and you're not afraid to lay out there where people are, basically stomping and treading on the Constitution, specifically your constitutional rights. What inspired you to go in this direction and become so effective at communicating all of this?
Well, I think really what happened is God put this in my heart a very long time ago. I was very young. I was watching the news for no real reason. And from there, I developed into just a real passion for politics. And from a very young age, I was always wanting to get involved. And I saw the constitutional infringements during the COVID mandates. And during that time, I realized it was just unacceptable for me to stay silent. I had to do something, and I had to fight back against the powers that be. I saw Gavin Newsom keeping everyone's businesses closed, but his restaurants were open. His private school for his kids were open. Meanwhile, the rest of the state was deprived of an education and deprived of going to these small businesses. And I just would not stand for that.
General Flynn, I wanted to tap into your wisdom here, your geographical knowledge, your understanding of what's happening here, just for anybody out there that is kind of lost in the headlines here. Sir, could you walk us through, what do you know about what's happening in Israel? And maybe you could even point out on the map where these things are happening, because I think a lot of people just don't know what's happening, sir.
So let me just kind of give you a little bit of, I don't know if you probably can't see my pointer, but put the pointer, Clay, on the Gaza Strip, right on the actual strip itself. There's a little tiny dotted line that goes around right there. Okay. So you're right there, just right there. Now, just so personally, I've been to Israel probably the better part of 20 times. And every time I've been there, it has been for military purposes. So I have been where it says Derat and Ashkelon, right? And Netivat. So I've been to those three places. And Derat, they're right on the corner, right above the sort of northeast of the A in Gaza, the second A, right there. So I've been right there, stood right there at that border. And I've been in some of their bunkers and some of the surveillance towers of the Israeli military. And so, number one, the level of surprise that happened to me, and I said this over the weekend, and I sent it to a very close friend of mine in the government, in the Israeli government, that to me, they ought to be, simultaneously fighting the war, but also getting rid of an entire chain of command of people, because there's no way in the world that this level of surprise could have happened unless somebody gave a stand down order 24 hours prior to this happening, and then a stand down order in this part of Israel would have been an order to me that only the president, only in this case the prime minister, could have actually authorized.
Join us on October 25th, a Wednesday, at Brighteon.tv for the telethon event, which will be packed with interesting guests, hosts, shows, announcements, auctions, gifts, and so much more. So thank you for listening. Hope to see you there. October 25th, Brighteon.tv. Take care.